Hello, my name is Adam. I am an English student, and this is my story. I want to tell you about how improving my accent was on my mind last Tuesday while I was at work. Something interesting happened. Two customers came to our cafe. They were a husband and wife. The man started speaking to me. I knew he was speaking English, but I couldn't understand him. I didn't understand what he wanted. I thought he was asking for something we didn't have, so I called my boss. She spoke with the man and sold him 2 coffees and 2 of our regular sandwiches. I was surprised. When they left, I went to my boss and apologized for not understanding the man. She said it was okay, explaining that this can happen when people speak with an accent that's new to us. She told me the couple was from Scotland. The next day, I told this story to my teacher at school. I explained that I felt really stupid for not understanding our customer. I wasn't sure if my English was good enough for my job. I started to doubt myself. My boss was understanding, but I still needed some advice from my teacher. I wanted to know what I could do in these situations. My teacher said, "I understand. You're used to the English spoken in London, but you aren't used to the Scottish accent. Your ears aren't accustomed to listening to it. All you have to do is listen to more Scottish English. You need to train your ears to this accent as well. What happened to you can happen to anyone who already speaks English at some level and goes to a country where people speak with a different accent. You shouldn't be surprised if you don't understand. It's okay, and it usually takes about 2 weeks to get used to a new accent. You shouldn't think there's something wrong with you when you don't understand. With practice, you can train your ears to any accent." Then I asked, "So, what can I do to understand the Scottish accent?" "I don't live in Scotland." Our teacher said, "You can watch films or sitcoms from Scotland, and soon you'll be able to understand." I thanked her after school. I went to work again, and at about 4 o'clock, 2 interesting customers came to our cafe. This time, they weren't from Scotland, they were foreigners. They wanted to buy some coffee. They were 2 ladies, and it was clear that their English was very basic. My boss was serving them, and when she heard that they didn't speak English very well, she did something very interesting. She simplified her English, using very short sentences with only 3 or 4 words. I could see that the ladies understood her. They bought 2 coffees, 2 sandwiches, and 2 cakes. They were happy, and my boss was happy too. When the ladies left, I told my boss that it was very nice how she had adapted her English so that the 2 ladies could understand her. My boss said that sometimes she has to speak very simply. It doesn't matter if the customers speak English well or not, they're our customers, and we have to do everything possible to make them feel comfortable. If they see that they can communicate in English here, they might come to our cafe every day. I think that our boss is a good businesswoman. She does everything possible to make our customers happy. It's true that we have a lot of customers. Our cafe is busy every day. When you want to understand people with a specific accent, listen to audio with their accent for some time. The next day at school, I told my teacher about my experience with my boss and the 2 ladies who didn't speak English very well. Our teacher said, "Great. Your boss must be a very clever young lady. It's true that you can communicate with everyone. Even people who speak English very well can have a conversation with those who are just at the beginning of their learning journey." Today, we will talk about different levels of English and what you should be able to do at these levels. Let's start with the lowest level of 1,000 words. At this level, students can talk about some basic things from everyday life. Their speaking is very limited, but it's already possible to communicate slowly for a short time with people. When someone wants to speak with you using short sentences, usually with about 4 words, and if you also respond with short sentences, you can have a basic conversation. When students reach a higher level of around 2,000 words, conversations become easier, and the sentences are longer. This is the level most of you in this class are at right now. You should be able to talk about many aspects of your life, such as your family, hobbies, job, and travel. You might sometimes have trouble having deeper conversations on specific topics, however, this level is usually sufficient for everyday use of English. If you want to have deeper conversations on many topics, it's good to know 3,000 words. Your goal as an English student who wants to speak well should be to learn 3,000 words. Of course, you can learn more. The more words you know, the easier it will be to communicate in English. But 3,000 words is usually enough for communicating about almost everything. I think the 2 ladies at your cafe knew about 1,000 words. Your boss met them at their level and had a basic conversation. This sentence about the boss selling sandwiches seems out of place here and is repeated from earlier. I've removed the repetition. I was surprised when they left. I went to my boss and apologized for not understanding the man. She said it was okay. After school, I went to work. The 2 ladies came to our cafe again, and they brought 2 of their friends. It was my turn to serve them. I spoke to them in simple, short sentences, and they understood me. This was great. They told me they were tourists from Japan and that they liked our cafe because people understand them there. If you want to communicate effectively in English, aim to learn 3,000 words. What to do when you are shy? On Thursday, I went to school again. One student asked a very interesting question. She said, "I am very shy when I have to speak English. Can you help me overcome my shyness?" Our teacher said, "It's true that when we use foreign languages, it's natural to feel uncertain or shy. We're doing something we're not perfect at, and the possibility of making a mistake is high. I was also very shy when I learned foreign languages. I remember how afraid I was of making mistakes. When I did make a mistake, I felt stupid, and sometimes I blushed. Now, it's different. I use languages for communication. I only care about communicating. You know, I'm learning Spanish these days. Embarrassing situations can happen, but they don't stop me from using Spanish. It's true that I still sometimes feel shy when I have to speak Spanish, and I sometimes blush, but I don't worry about it much. It's a natural human feeling, and it never lasts forever. I continue using Spanish because I know that I can only improve by using it. I also try to see things as they are. I'm a student, and I'm on the way to speaking good Spanish. It's not possible to skip several levels in one day. A beginner can't become a perfect speaker in 1 hour. I also see what I mean to the people around me when I already speak some Spanish. I have value to people who speak Spanish. You should see the same thing. When you already speak some English, you can have a conversation with other people in English. That's great. Focus on what you already know. You know 2,000 words. You have already gone from 0 to 2,000 words. Appreciate that. Some students feel that knowing English means being able to speak like a native speaker, with perfect pronunciation, perfect grammar, and perfect fluency without any mistakes. They think that if they aren't doing that, then they don't know English, and they are embarrassed because they are not perfect. These students are very hard on themselves. That is not necessary. All of you are great because you already speak some English. Continue working on your English, and your shyness can gradually go away. I like what our teacher tells us. I am also sometimes shy. I know that I should practice speaking a lot, but in some situations, I don't want to look stupid, so I don't speak as much as I should. I have decided to be a bit braver in these situations and use them to practice more. Then, one student says, "Sometimes I want to say something, but I don't know the word I want to use." Then I stop, and I don't know what to do in these situations. I feel very stupid, so the next time I have a chance to speak English, I don't want to speak because I don't want to be in this awkward situation again. Can you help me with this? Our teacher says, when you start to speak English, you have to prepare for one thing. There will be moments when you don't know a word you want to say. In such a situation, you will need to learn how to describe the word. This ability is very important when learning a new language. Since you are not a native English speaker, you will probably never know the same number of words as you know in your native language. I can tell you that you can describe almost every word. You only need to train this skill. You will have to practice expressing ideas using the vocabulary you have. For example, if you don't know the word key, you can describe it as a small thing for opening a door. You also describe words in your native language without realizing it. If you don't know the word for something, you simply describe it to the other person so that they understand what it is. You can do the same thing in English, but you need to train this ability. Thinking aloud is a very good technique to use when you want to be able to describe things well. Use thinking aloud every day, and your ability to describe things will improve. You can only learn English when you use English. It is okay to be shy, but it can't stop you from using English. Who is talented? The next day was Friday, and I went to school again. I am happy that I go to this class, not only because of our teacher. I looked around the class, and nobody raised their hand. My teacher smiled and then said, "Now I want to tell you something." Many people think that you need to have a talent if you really want to learn a new language. I agree, yes, you need to have a talent if you want to learn a new language. But I also believe that you already have a talent for learning languages. Why do you have a talent? You have a talent because you have already learned one language, which is your native language. You were successful at learning your native language, and you speak that language fluently. All people who are able to learn their native language have a talent for learning languages. Why do many students believe that they are not talented? The reason is this: there are people who are super talented. Yes, it's true. These super talented people remember new words very fast and for a longer time. Maybe you know these people. Maybe it's someone at your work or in your family. There are not many of these people, but they exist. I believe that this might be the case with Sophia's sister as well. Learning a new language is fun for these people, and they can do it easily. Sophia says that it's true that her sister is really better than everyone else. Our teacher continues, "It's true that these super talented people exist. It's a fact, and we cannot do anything about it. Yet, it is not a problem in itself. The problem is that we compare ourselves to these people, and if we don't learn as fast as they do, we think that we are not talented. I want to ask you for one thing. Please do not compare yourself to these super talented people. Yes, they are lucky, and they have an advantage, but you might be lucky too, and you are super talented at other things. Maybe you are more talented than others when you learn to sing, swim, play tennis, count numbers, cook, or repair cars. People are not all the same. It is a beauty of this world. Now, you can believe that you are all talented, maybe not super talented, but talented. When you believe that you are talented, learning English will be easier for you. These words from our teacher are very helpful for us. I know that I am talented at playing football and tennis. Now I know that I am also talented at learning English. That's great. What is also great is that there is a school party in the evening. I am really looking forward to this party. I know that some girls from our class are going. I hope that our new student, Sophia, is also going to the party. I have known Sophia for only one day, but I like her a lot. If you can speak your native language, then you have a talent for learning English. How to speak fluently. On Monday, I go to school again. Our teacher asks us how Friday's school party was. One student says that the party was great. We had a lot of drinks and a lot of fun. The girls from our class enjoyed the party as well. I enjoyed the party a lot because Sophia was there. I could talk to her, and we danced together. It was all very nice. There were also 2 boys from my football team at the party. These boys were from Brazil. Their English skills were basic. They could speak only in short sentences, but they were extremely funny at the party. They made a lot of jokes about life in England, about other players from our team, and about girls from their class. Everybody laughed. Their sentences were very short, with only 3 or 4 words, but they were able to communicate fluently when we talked about the party. I told my teacher it was really interesting to see that someone who doesn't know many words can already communicate fluently. I know some students who are at a much higher level and have a hard time speaking. My teacher says, "This is really interesting. I can tell you that the 2 boys from your football team showed you what all students should do. The boys used what they knew. They cared only about what was really important, which was communication." Then one girl asks, "So what should we do if we want to speak English fluently? Should we go to parties and make jokes?" My teacher says, "First, let me explain what fluent speaking is. Many students think that fluent speaking is fast speaking with a lot of words and perfect grammar. However, there is a better, more accurate definition of fluent speaking. Fluent speaking is speaking without long pauses. Some people can do it with 1,000 words, and some people can do it with 2,000 words. Yet, there are also people who know 3,000 words and aren't able to speak fluently. If you want to speak fluently, you have to practice speaking. There is no other way to improve your fluency. Speaking is a physical activity. It is like playing a musical instrument. If you want to play the violin, you need to train the connection between your brain and the muscles in your fingers. When you want to speak well, you need to train the connection between your brain and the muscles in your mouth. If the connection between your brain and your mouth is not regularly trained, you can't speak fluently, no matter how many words you know. You can't complain that you can't speak fluently if you don't practice speaking often. Maybe you have had this experience. You meet a foreigner who wants to speak with you in English. You want to express the ideas that are in your head, but you aren't able to do it. You can't find the right words. Then, when you end the conversation and replay it in your head, you realize that you actually know the right words, but by then, the conversation is already finished. Why do you experience such situations? Because you have little training. Your speaking isn't automatic. It is not automatic because you don't practice it often enough. If you want to speak fluently, I recommend speaking for at least 30 minutes a day. You can speak to a real person. If you don't have a real person to speak to, you can do thinking aloud. It is necessary to really think aloud and not only think in your head. You need to practice the connection between your brain and your muscles. You can do this by thinking aloud. Does it make sense? Yes, says the girl. If you want to speak fluently, speak for 30 minutes every day. What is the best school? At the next lesson, one of the students asks an interesting question. She says, "Next week I am going home. I would like to continue studying in my country. I don't know how to choose a good school there. Could you help me? How do I know if a school is good or not?" My teacher says, "This is a very good question. I believe that when you read, listen, and speak a lot, you don't need to go to a school to learn English. You will naturally acquire it by using the language. However, if you choose to pay for your education, a good teacher can help you speed up the learning process. If you want to check if your school is good, before taking the first lesson of the course, visit www.testlanguages.com. There, you can find out how many words you know. After 5 lessons at the new school, take the test again to see how many new words you've learned. If you are happy with your progress, you can continue paying for your lessons. It's also important to enjoy every lesson and look forward to the next one. Make sure to enjoy every activity you do in English. I also provide private lessons via Skype. If you're interested, I can teach you online. If you can't find a good school in your town, you can contact me, and I'll be happy to help. That's great, says the student. I want to have private lessons with you via Skype. This is wonderful news for me. I didn't know it was possible to have private lessons with my teacher. Soon, I'll be going back to my country, and I still want to continue having private lessons with you. When you go to school, it's important to track your progress and enjoy every lesson. But what should you do when you need help? It's Wednesday, and I go to school again. At the beginning of the next lesson, Monica has a question for our teacher. She asks, "How do you know all of this? Where did you learn so much about studying languages?" Our teacher replies, "There are many ways to gain knowledge about learning and teaching languages. The first and most important way is through experience. I have been teaching for more than 7 years and have gained a lot of experience during that time. When I teach, I observe what works and what doesn't. I focus only on the methods and techniques that truly help my students. I also study materials about learning languages online. Whenever I find something interesting, I test it in one of my classes. If it works well, I incorporate it into all my other classes. There's another way I gather information, and it happens during moments when I have a question but can't seem to find an answer. In such moments, I visit what I call my magic park, where I always find the answer." Monica says, "This is interesting. How do you get answers in the magic park? Where is the magic park? Can we go there too?" My teacher smiles and replies, "What I'm about to tell you may not feel real to everyone. If it sounds crazy, I'm sorry. But since you asked, I'll share it with you. I believe that if you have a question and ask the universe for an answer, the answer will come. When I have a question, I go to the magic park and sit on a bench. I relax my body, slow down my breathing, and try to clear my mind. Then, I ask my question, nothing more. Sometimes, the answer comes to me as a new idea in my head. Other times, someone I talk to later says something that helps me find the answer. Occasionally, I watch an interesting video online and discover the answer there. Sometimes, the answers arrive the next morning when I wake up. What's fascinating is that the answers always come. I am so grateful for them. As I mentioned, you don't have to believe what I'm telling you, but this is what I do and how it works for me. The park isn't far from here, it's just a 10-minute walk. Many people visit the park to relax because it's beautiful and has a wonderful atmosphere. I call it the Magic Park because it feels magical to me. My teacher's words are very intriguing to me. I didn't know that people could ask the universe for answers. Perhaps in the future, when I have an important or interesting question, I might try going to the park and asking for an answer too. If you ever have a problem, don't hesitate to ask for help. Summary of the next day. One girl asks our teacher an interesting question. She says, "Thank you for the information you've been giving us on how to learn English. Could you give us a summary of the rules we should follow every day to improve our English?" Well, our teacher replies, "Okay, I'll try to give you a simple summary. If you want to speak English well, you need to focus on 3 things: reading, listening, and speaking. You already know this. What's important, however, is that you spend about the same amount of time on each activity. If you neglect one of them, your progress won't be as fast as it could be. From my experience, I can tell you that it's essential to use English every day for at least 90 minutes. You don't necessarily have to study, but you should engage with English actively. I will explain each activity in more detail. Let's start with reading. You should read for at least 30 minutes every day. This is the minimum. Don't read to study English. Read to gain new information or enjoy an interesting story. I know I repeat this advice often, but it's truly important. Next, you should listen to English for at least 30 minutes every day. Again, it should be something you're genuinely interested in and enjoy. Start with simple audiobooks or news programs. Once you're comfortable, gradually move on to higher levels of books and news. When you know around 2,000 words, you can start watching films and videos on the internet. Finally, let's talk about speaking. You already know how important speaking is when learning English. It's essential to practice speaking for at least 30 minutes every day. The best way is to speak with real people, your teacher, classmates, colleagues, or friends. Try to find someone at your level of English or slightly better, and practice with them. However, if you don't have anyone to speak with, you can still practice using methods like shadowing, repeating after audio recordings, or thinking aloud, talking to yourself. These techniques can give you plenty of speaking practice every day. I use these techniques very often when I learn Spanish. I don't have any native Spanish speakers in my life who I see every day, so I rely on these 2 techniques to improve my Spanish. As you can see, studying English is simple. All you need to do is read, listen, and speak. That's all. Now you know how to do it. "Thank you," says the girl. "This is exactly what I needed to hear. You're the best." I'm also very glad she asked this question. It's my last day at school, and I needed a summary of what I can do on my own. During the 4 weeks I've spent with my teacher, I've learned so much and significantly improved my English. My teacher knows it's my last day at school. She asks me if I want to say something to the other students in the class. I say, I was very happy to be part of this class. I met a lot of nice people. I give everyone my email address and tell them they can contact me if they want to. Then, I say goodbye to everyone. I feel a little sad, but I know I have to move forward with my life. I can't stay at school forever. Now, it's up to me to continue improving my English. I have all the tools I need. 1 year later. It's now 1 year after my last day at school. I've been using English every day and practicing the techniques my teacher taught me. Now, I know 4,000 words in English, and my progress has been amazing. It's great. I also have a new job. I've started teaching English. I teach beginners who know only about 500 words. This is a good starting point for me because I know I need a lot of practice as a teacher before I can teach at higher levels. I have one great advantage in my new job. I had an amazing teacher in London. I learned so much from her, and now I'm trying to pass on everything I learned to my students. I want them to be successful, too. When it comes to learning English, the advice remains simple. Read, listen, and speak. Dedicate 30 minutes to each activity every day, and you will see progress.